A guardian found. The acrid stench of burnt circuitry filled Captain Elias Riker's nostrils as he pried himself free of the sparking wreckage that had once been his ship. The craft had been nearly torn in two by the violent turbulence of Zephyrus VII's atmosphere before slamming into the russet sands of the barren planet. Elias counted himself lucky to be alive. Zephyrus 7 had not been his intended destination, merely an uncharted world that had appeared in his viewscreen when the Stella Vega's engines had abruptly failed 2 weeks into a solo reconnaissance mission. The ship's database contained only the barest mention of the planet, a forbidding world scoured by eternal electric storms. Now that Elias had crashed onto its surface, he could see that the database's assessment had been grimly accurate. An angry green-tinged sky roiled above a landscape of tortured red rock. The only signs that the planet might once have harbored life were the skeletal ruins of cyclopean structures that jutted from the dunes like the bones of long-dead beasts. Elias attempted to activate his comm, hoping to send an SOS buoy, but the crash had damaged it beyond use. The distress beacon on the Stella Vega had likely been destroyed as well. Elias realized with grim certainty that he was stranded, light years from the nearest human outpost, with little hope of rescue. Salvaging what he could from the mangled ship, Elias fashioned a makeshift shelter against the side of a towering alien ruin. As he sifted through the wreckage, a glint of metal caught his eye. It was an old photo of himself and Amara, his wife, taken on their wedding day a decade ago. They had both looked so young and hopeful then, flush with love and the promise of a shared future. But the demands of his career in the Interstellar Expeditionary Corps had strained their bond year after year, until Amara had finally left, unable to endure his long absences any longer. The divorce had been finalized mere days before he had embarked on this ill-fated mission. Looking at the photo now, Elias felt a pang of regret. In chasing his ambitions across the stars, had he let his most precious connection wither? Elias was pulled from his ruminations by a flash of light in the periphery of his vision. Whirling around, he spotted a small figure darting between the ruins some 50 meters away. His heart began to race. Could there be survivors of whatever cataclysm had befallen this world? Or was his oxygen-starved brain conjuring mirages? Grabbing his pulse rifle and a canteen, Elias set off in the direction of the mysterious figure. As he drew closer, he could see that it was a child, humanoid in appearance but with skin that shimmered like quicksilver. The child, a girl who looked no more than 4 or 5 years old, huddled beneath a half-collapsed arch, her small body trembling. Elias approached slowly, hands raised to show he meant no harm. The girl watched him warily, her eyes kaleidoscopic whirls of color that seemed to shift and change as he watched. When he was an arm's length away, Elias knelt, bringing himself to eye level with the frightened child. "Hello," he said softly. "My name is Elias. I'm not going to hurt you." The girl cocked her head, as if trying to parse his unfamiliar words. Elias tried a different tack, pointing to himself and enunciating slowly. "Elias. Elias." The girl's small brow furrowed in concentration. After a moment, she pointed one slim, silver finger at him and trilled. "Elias." Elias couldn't help but smile. "That's right. Elias. And what's your name?" But the girl only stared back at him, uncomprehending. Looking closer, Elias could see that beneath the sheen of her remarkable skin, she was painfully thin, her expression haunted. Wherever she'd come from, it was clear she'd been alone for quite some time. "You must be hungry," Elias said. Reaching slowly into his pack, he withdrew a protein bar and held it out to her. "Here. It's food." Hesitantly, the girl reached out and snatched the bar from his hand. She sniffed it cautiously before taking a tentative bite. Her eyes went wide and she devoured the rest with astonishing speed. "Easy now," Elias chuckled. "There's plenty more where that came from." He held out his hand to her. After a moment's hesitation, she took it, her small fingers cool and smooth in his weathered palm. Elias led her back to the shelter he'd constructed, his mind awhirl. The girl was clearly the same species as the builders of the great ruins that dotted the planet, but why had she been left behind? And what had happened to the rest of her kind? As he watched her sleep that night, curled beneath a thermal blanket, Elias felt a fierce protectiveness take root in his heart. He might not have the answers to her past, but one thing was certain: he would keep this child safe, no matter the cost. In that moment, the yawning loneliness that had been his constant companion for so many years began to recede, replaced by a sense of purpose he'd never known before. Over the following weeks, Elias and the girl fell into a routine of sorts. By day, they would scavenge the ruins, searching for anything that might aid in their survival: tools, technology, scraps of alien text that Elias hoped might one day provide clues to the girl's origins. By night, huddled around a meager fire, Elias would regale her with stories of Earth, of the wonders of the vast universe beyond Zephyr 7. Though the girl remained silent, her expressive eyes spoke volumes. She drank in Elias's tales like one long parched, her gaze alight with curiosity and wonder. Watching her, Elias felt something in his own spirit begin to rekindle, a sense of hope and possibility he had thought long extinguished. Not until their 30th day on the planet did the girl finally speak again. Elias was hunched over the remnants of a shattered alien device, trying to splice its power cell into the Stella Vega's drained batteries, when he felt a small hand on his arm. "Elias," the girl said haltingly. "I am Nova." Elias turned to her, his heart swelling with an emotion he couldn't quite name. "Nova," he repeated softly. It was a name that spoke of the infinite expanse of the cosmos, of the limitless potential that lay within this remarkable child. In that moment, the barren sands of Zephyr 7 no longer seemed quite so desolate. For Elias had found something far more precious than mere survival: he had found a reason to hope once more. Echoes of the past. Years passed, and Nova grew from a shy, frightened child into a brilliant and vivacious young woman. Under Elias's tutelage, she absorbed knowledge like a sponge, her quick mind eagerly devouring every scrap of information he could provide about the universe beyond Zephyr 7. Elias taught her the basics of human language and culture, sharing stories of Earth's history and the myriad worlds he had encountered in his travels. He showed her how to repair and maintain the few pieces of technology they had managed to salvage from the Stella Vega, and together they worked to unravel the mysteries of the alien devices they unearthed in the ruins. But even as Nova thrived under Elias's care, questions about her past continued to haunt them both. The ruins that stretched across the planet's surface spoke of a once great civilization, but they could find no clues as to what had become of Nova's people, or why she had been left behind. As Nova grew older, strange things began to happen around their makeshift compound. Equipment would malfunction inexplicably, only to start working again just as suddenly. Eerie lights would flicker in the depths of the ruins, accompanied by whispering voices that seemed to emanate from the very stones. Elias initially dismissed these occurrences as tricks of the mind, the product of too many lonely years on a desolate world. But Nova became increasingly convinced that the phenomena were somehow linked to her burgeoning abilities. For as long as she could remember, Nova had been able to sense things that Elias could not: subtle energy fields that permeated the ruins, whispering voices at the edge of her consciousness. As she grew, these extrasensory abilities only seemed to strengthen, manifesting in ever more tangible ways. One evening, as they sat around the crackling fire, Nova turned to Elias, her quicksilver features troubled. "Elias," she said softly, "I think it's time for me to find out the truth about who I am and where I come from." Elias's heart clenched. He had always known this day would come, but a part of him had hoped to shield Nova from the pain and uncertainty of her mysterious past for just a little longer. "Nova," he said carefully, "I understand your need for answers. But the universe can be a dangerous place, especially for someone with abilities like yours. Are you sure you're ready for what you might find?" Nova's kaleidoscopic eyes met his, fierce with determination. "I have to know," Elias. I can't keep living with this emptiness inside me. I need to understand my place in the cosmos, even if the truth is painful. Elias sighed, reaching out to take her hand. Then I'll help you, Nova. We'll face this together, just like we always have. Over the following weeks, they pored over every scrap of alien text they had collected, searching for any clue that might point the way to Nova's origins. They delved deeper into the ruins than ever before, braving treacherous chambers and ancient machinery in the hopes of finding some lost archive or data repository. But the ruins remained stubbornly silent, offering no answers to Nova's burning questions. Late one night, as Nova sat cross-legged before the fire, her frustration finally boiled over. Tears of anger and despair streaking her face, she slammed her fists against the ground, sending a shockwave of energy rippling through the compound. In an instant, the alien device Elias had been tinkering with for months flared to life, projecting a shimmering hologram into the air above them. Nova scrambled to her feet, her eyes wide with shock. The hologram coalesced into an image of a towering citadel, its spires reaching towards a star-filled sky. Alien figures moved through its halls, their features strange yet hauntingly familiar. And at the center of it all, standing before a great dais, was an individual with quicksilver skin and kaleidoscopic eyes, a perfect mirror of Nova herself. Elias, Nova breathed, that's my mother. I can feel it. As they watched, transfixed, the figure began to speak, her voice echoing across the centuries. Our hubris has brought ruin upon us all. The convergence has failed, and our great work has unleashed a darkness that now threatens to consume us. To any who may find this recording, know that our time is at an end. But there is still hope. The figure gestured, and a shimmering portal opened behind the dais. I have sent my daughter, the last of our line, through the portal to a hidden sanctum, where she may slumber in safety until the time is right. Only she has the power to seal the breach and restore balance to the cosmos. If you are watching this, Nova, know that the fate of countless worlds now rests on your shoulders. You must find the celestial citadel and complete our work, before the darkness consumes everything. With a final, anguished look, the figure turned and stepped through the portal. The hologram flickered and faded, leaving Elias and Nova in stunned silence. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Nova turned to Elias, her expression a mix of fear, determination, and sorrow. I have to go, Elias. I have to find this celestial citadel and stop the darkness my people unleashed. Elias's throat tightened. He had always known that Nova was destined for something greater than a life of scavenging ruins on a forgotten world. But the thought of letting her go, of facing the dangers of the universe alone. Nova, he said hoarsely, I can't let you do this alone. I promise to keep you safe, no matter what. Wherever you go, I go too. Nova shook her head, tears glimmering in her kaleidoscopic eyes. Elias, you've already given up so much for me. I can't ask you to abandon the life you've built here. You're not asking, Elias said firmly. I'm offering. Nova, you're more than just my ward or my friend. You're the closest thing I've ever had to a daughter. Family doesn't abandon each other, no matter what. For a moment, Nova looked like she might argue. But then she flung her arms around Elias, hugging him fiercely. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know if I'm strong enough to do this on my own. You won't have to, Elias murmured. We'll face this together, Nova. No matter what comes, I'll be by your side. Always. As they held each other beneath the alien stars, Elias felt a sense of purpose settle over him, stronger than any he had ever known. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with dangers he could scarcely imagine. But with Nova by his side, he knew they could face anything the cosmos threw at them. For the first time in longer than he could remember, Elias dared to hope, not just for survival, but for a future brighter than the stars themselves. Into the unknown. The decision to leave Zephyrus 7 was not an easy one. The barren planet had been Elias and Nova's home for over a decade, and the thought of venturing into the unknown was daunting. But they both knew that the answers Nova sought could not be found among the crumbling ruins of their makeshift compound. They spent weeks preparing for their journey, retrofitting the Stella Vega's battered hull with salvaged alien technology and stockpiling what meager supplies they could gather. Nova worked tirelessly to master her burgeoning abilities, honing her extrasensory perception and telekinetic skills under Elias's watchful eye. At last, the day of their departure arrived. As the Stella Vega's engines roared to life, Nova stood at the viewport, her quicksilver features awash with emotion as she watched the only home she'd ever known recede into the distance. "I'll find the truth, Mother," she whispered, touching a hand to the cool glass. "I promise." The first leg of their journey took them to the bustling spaceport of Argus Prime, a hub of interstellar trade and commerce. It was here that the gulf between Nova's upbringing and her burgeoning powers first became apparent. As they navigated the crowded streets and markets, Nova found herself overwhelmed by the constant press of emotions and stray thoughts that buffeted her mind. The cacophony of alien languages and customs, so different from the solitude of Zephyrus 7, left her reeling. Elias did his best to guide her through the chaos, but he too was out of his element. The years on Zephyrus 7 had left him ill-prepared for the sensory overload of Argus Prime, and more than once he found himself reaching for a weapon at perceived threats. It was in a dimly lit cantina on the outskirts of the spaceport that they first heard whispers of the celestial citadel. A grizzled freighter pilot, his face scarred by a lifetime of close calls, spoke of an ancient legend, a hidden sanctuary said to hold the secrets of a long-lost civilization. "They say it appears only to the worthy," the pilot rasped, nursing a glass of luminescent liquor. "Those with the power to change the very fabric of the cosmos." Nova leaned forward, her kaleidoscopic eyes alight with curiosity. "Where can we find it?" The pilot shook his head. "That's the thing, lass. No one knows for sure. Some say it's hidden in the heart of a dying star. Others claim it's buried beneath the sands of a forgotten world. The only thing the stories agree on is that the path to the citadel is fraught with peril." Elias and Nova exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. They had come too far to turn back now, no matter the danger. Over the following months, they chased down every lead and rumor they could find, scouring ancient archives and bargaining with shady information brokers. Each new scrap of knowledge brought them closer to their goal, but also deeper into the shadows of the galactic underworld. Their search eventually led them to the Oreos Nebula, a swirling expanse of dust and gas on the fringes of charted space. It was said that the heart of the nebula held a portal to a hidden dimension, a realm beyond the boundaries of normal spacetime. As the Stella Vega plunged into the roiling clouds of the nebula, Nova could feel a strange energy thrumming through the ship's hull, setting her teeth on edge. Elias gripped the controls tightly, his jaw clenched as he navigated by instrument alone. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light engulfed the cockpit, and the ship lurched violently. Nova cried out in alarm, but her voice was lost in the roar of the engines. For a terrifying moment, it seemed as though the Stella Vega would be torn apart by the cosmic maelstrom. Then, as abruptly as it had begun, the turbulence ceased. The ship emerged into a pocket of eerie calm, and Nova gasped at the sight that greeted them. Before them, suspended in the void like a jewel on black velvet, was a vast construct of shimmering metal and pulsing energy. It was the celestial citadel, exactly as Nova's mother had shown them in the hologram. As the Stella Vega approached the citadel, a sense of foreboding washed over Nova. The structure was awe-inspiring, a testament to the advanced technology and architectural prowess of her long-lost people. But there was something else, a dark undercurrent that set her nerves on edge. They docked in a cavernous hangar bay, the silence broken only by the hiss of the ship's airlock. As they stepped out onto the polished metal floor, Nova couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The halls of the citadel were empty, echoing with the ghosts of a fallen civilization. But as they delved deeper into the structure, following the pulsing conduits of energy that seemed to guide their steps, Nova began to sense a presence, a vast, alien consciousness that permeated the very walls. It was in the heart of the citadel, a vast chamber pulsing with eldritch light, that they finally came face to face with the dark secret at the core of Nova's past. A towering being of pure energy stood before them, its form shifting and writhing like a living nebula. Nova could feel the immense power radiating from it, a power that called to the very depths of her being. "Welcome, child of the Convergence," the being spoke, its voice a whisper that echoed in Nova's mind. "I have waited long for your return." Nova stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" The being seemed to laugh, a sound like the shattering of stars. "I am the Harbinger, the avatar of the darkness your people sought to harness. It was their hubris that birthed me, and their folly that set me free." Nova's blood ran cold. The darkness her mother had spoken of, the force that had consumed her civilization, it was here, in the heart of the citadel. "Your people sought to wield the primal forces of the cosmos," the Harbinger continued, "to bend the very fabric of reality to their will. But they could not control the power they unleashed. And now, that power is mine to command." Nova shook her head, defiance flaring within her. "No. I won't let you destroy everything my people fought to protect. I'll stop you, whatever it takes." The Harbinger's laughter filled the chamber, a sound that chilled Nova to her core. "Foolish child. You cannot stop what has already begun. The convergence is at hand, and soon, all will be remade in my image." With a roar of eldritch energy, the Harbinger lashed out, a wave of darkness engulfing the chamber. Nova threw up her hands, a shimmering barrier of psionic force springing into existence before her. But the Harbinger's power was too great. The barrier shattered like glass, and Nova was flung backwards, her body slamming into the unyielding metal of the chamber wall. Through a haze of pain, she saw Elias charge forward, his pulse rifle blazing as he poured fire into the Harbinger's shifting form. But the bolts passed harmlessly through the being's energy matrix, and with a contemptuous flick of its hand, the Harbinger sent Elias flying. Nova struggled to her feet, desperation lending her strength. She could feel the power within her, the birthright of her people, straining to be unleashed. But she didn't know how to wield it, didn't know if she was strong enough to face the darkness alone. As the Harbinger advanced, its form swelling with malevolent energy, Nova closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind to the pulsing heart of the citadel. "Mother," she whispered, "if you can hear me, I need your help. I can't do this alone." For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a warmth blossomed within Nova's chest, a sense of love and fierce pride that brought tears to her eyes. "You are never alone, my child," her mother's voice whispered. "The strength of our people flows through you. Embrace it, and let it guide you." Nova's eyes snapped open, glowing with an inner fire. She could feel the power surging through her, a cascading torrent of psionic energy that set her nerves alight. With a wordless cry, she unleashed that power, a blinding beam of force that struck the Harbinger like a thunderbolt. The being reeled, its form flickering and distorting as it struggled to maintain cohesion. Nova pressed her advantage, pouring every ounce of her strength into the attack. The chamber shook with the force of their battle, the very fabric of reality warping and buckling under the strain. But even as she fought, Nova could feel her strength waning. The Harbinger's power was vast, a yawning abyss that threatened to swallow her whole. Just as she felt herself on the verge of collapse, a hand grasped hers, warm and steady. Nova looked up to see Elias standing beside her, his eyes alight with the same fierce determination that had carried them through so many trials before. "Together," he said, his voice ringing with conviction. "We finish this together." Nova nodded, tears streaming down her face. Hand in hand, they turned to face the Harbinger, their combined power blazing like a supernova in the darkness. The battle that followed was like nothing Nova had ever experienced. The very air crackled with psionic energy as they clashed, the Harbinger's darkness meeting Nova and Elias's light in a cataclysmic eruption of force. In the end, it was love that tipped the balance. The bond between Nova and Elias, forged through years of shared hardship and unwavering devotion, proved stronger than any darkness. With a final, desperate surge of power, they drove the Harbinger back, its form shattering into a million shards of obsidian light. As the echoes of the battle faded, Nova and Elias collapsed into each other's arms, their bodies racked with exhaustion and their hearts filled with a fierce, triumphant joy. They had won. Against all odds, they had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. The celestial citadel was theirs, a bastion of hope and knowledge that would light the way for generations to come. But even as they celebrated their triumph, Nova knew that their journey was far from over. The Harbinger had been just one manifestation of the darkness that threatened the cosmos, one echo of the hubris and folly that had doomed her people. There would be other battles to come, other dangers to face. But with Elias by her side, Nova knew that she could face anything the universe threw at her. For the first time in her life, she knew her place in the cosmos. Not as a lost relic of a forgotten past, but as a beacon of hope for the future that stretched before her, as bright and boundless as the stars themselves. A legacy reborn. In the aftermath of their battle with the Harbinger, Nova and Elias set about exploring the celestial citadel, marveling at the advanced technology and arcane knowledge that filled its halls. The structure was a testament to the genius and ambition of Nova's people, a shining example of what they had once been capable of. But as they delved deeper into the citadel's archives, a troubling picture began to emerge. The record spoke of a civilization consumed by its own hubris, driven to ever greater heights of power and mastery over the fundamental forces of the universe. In their relentless pursuit of knowledge, Nova's ancestors had tapped into primal energies they could barely comprehend, unleashing forces that threatened to tear the very fabric of reality asunder. The Harbinger had been just one manifestation of the darkness they had birthed, a shadow of the cataclysm that had ultimately consumed them. As Nova pored over the ancient texts, her heart grew heavy with the weight of her people's legacy. How could she hope to avoid the same fate, to resist the seductive lure of power that had led them to their doom? Even as she grappled with these questions, a new threat was gathering on the horizon. The ripples of the Harbinger's defeat had not gone unnoticed, and soon, a new force rose to claim the power of the celestial citadel for itself. They called themselves the Zetherian Order, a sect of fanatical psionic warriors who believed that mastery over the primal energies of the cosmos was their birthright. Led by the charismatic and ruthless telepath Varus, they had carved a swath of conquest across the stars, enslaving worlds and bending entire civilizations to their will. Now, they had set their sights on the celestial citadel, seeing it as the key to unlocking the ultimate power they craved. As their warships massed on the borders of the Oreos Nebula, Nova and Elias knew that they faced a fight for survival unlike any they had encountered before. Desperate for a way to defend against the coming onslaught, Nova delved ever deeper into the Citadel's archives, searching for any scrap of knowledge that might give them an edge. It was there, in a chamber sealed behind layers of psionic wards, that she found it, a record of the ultimate weapon her people had crafted in their darkest hour. They called it the Nexus Core, a device that could harness the fundamental energies of the universe itself. With it, the wielder could bend space and time to their will, rewriting the very laws of reality on a whim. But the record came with a dire warning. The Nexus Core was a double-edged sword, a power so vast and all-consuming that it threatened to corrupt all who touched it. To wield it was to court madness and destruction, to risk unleashing a force that could consume the galaxy itself. Elias pleaded with Nova to find another way, to not let the specter of her ancestors' mistakes drive her to the same ruinous path. But as the Zetherian fleet drew ever closer, Nova saw no other choice. With heavy heart, she took up the Nexus Core, feeling its power surge through her like a raging wildfire. It was a siren song, a seductive whisper that promised dominion over all of creation. But Nova steeled herself against its lure, focusing her mind on the love and compassion that had always been her guiding light. She thought of Elias, of the unwavering devotion and sacrifice he had shown her, of the future they dreamed of building together. As the Zetherian ships tore through the nebulous veil, Nova stood ready to meet them, the Nexus core pulsing with eldritch light in her hands. Beside her, Elias readied his pulse rifle, his jaw set with grim determination. The battle that followed was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Psionic energy crackled and surged as the Zetherian warriors clashed with Nova's nascent powers, the very fabric of spacetime warping and buckling under the strain. At the heart of the maelstrom, Varus and Nova dueled in a cataclysmic contest of wills, the Nexus core blazing like a small sun between them. Varus's mastery over the primal forces was formidable, honed by a lifetime of ruthless conquest and iron discipline. But Nova's power was born of something greater, a well of compassion and fierce, protective love that no darkness could overcome. With each blow, she could feel the core resonating with her heart, its eldritch energies bending to her will. In a final, desperate gambit, Varus unleashed the full might of his psionic abilities, seeking to crush Nova's mind beneath an avalanche of pure, unrelenting force. For a terrifying moment, Nova felt herself drowning in a sea of endless night, her very sense of self slipping away into the void. But then, through the darkness, she heard Elias's voice, a beacon of light and warmth that cut through the shadows like a blazing sword. "Nova," he cried out, his psionic essence reaching out to join with hers. "Remember who you are. Remember the love that guides you." In that moment, something deep within Nova shifted, a fundamental transformation at the very core of her being. The power of the Nexus core surged through her, but it was no longer a raging inferno threatening to consume her. Instead, it was a calm, steady light, a radiant dawn that banished the shadows and illuminated the path ahead. With a final, transcendent burst of energy, Nova shattered Varus's attack, the Zetherian warlord's mind crumbling beneath the weight of her compassion and resolve. As the last of the Zetherian ships fled into the void, Nova and Elias stood amidst the wreckage of the battle, their hearts heavy with the toll of the conflict. The celestial citadel lay in ruins around them, its once gleaming halls scorched and broken by the ferocity of the fighting. But even in that moment of desolation, Nova could feel a spark of hope kindling within her. The Nexus core was a terrible burden, a power that could all too easily lead her down the same dark path that had doomed her ancestors. But it was also an opportunity, a chance to forge a new legacy for her people, one guided by wisdom, compassion, and the unshakable bonds of love and fellowship. Together, she and Elias would rebuild the celestial citadel, not as a monument to the hubris of the past, but as a beacon of hope for the future. They would reach out to the scattered remnants of Nova's people, offering them a chance to join in the great work of healing and restoration. And they would stand as guardians of the Nexus core, ensuring that its power was never again used for conquest or domination, but only for the betterment of all life in the cosmos. It would not be an easy path. There would be challenges and dangers at every turn, forces of darkness that would seek to claim the core's power for their own selfish ends. But Nova knew that she would never have to face those trials alone. With Elias by her side, and the love and wisdom of her ancestors to guide her, she would become a beacon of hope for a galaxy too long shrouded in darkness. As they stood hand in hand amidst the ruins of the citadel, Nova and Elias looked out across the stars, their hearts filled with a profound sense of purpose and unshakable resolve. They had been forged in the crucible of hardship and sacrifice, their bond tempered by the fires of adversity. Now, they would take the lessons of their struggles and use them to build a brighter tomorrow, a future where the light of hope and compassion would forever eclipse the darkness of the past. And though the road ahead would be long and hard, they knew that they would walk it together, guided by the unwavering strength of their love. For in the end, it was that love that would be their greatest weapon, their truest shield against the trials to come. Nova looked to Elias, her eyes shining with the radiant light of 1,000 suns. In his steady gaze, she saw the promise of forever, an unbreakable bond that would carry them through whatever storms the future held. Together, she whispered, her hand tightening in his. Always, Elias replied, his voice ringing with the strength of an unbreakable vow. Until the stars themselves burn out. And with those words, they turned to face the horizon, ready to begin the next chapter of their journey. A journey that would echo through the ages, a testament to the indomitable power of the spirit, and the eternal resilience of hope and love. A new dawn. As the dust settled over the ruins of the celestial citadel, Nova and Elias set to work, their hearts filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The task before them was monumental, to rebuild not just the physical structure of the citadel, but the very spirit of Nova's people, to create a new legacy founded on the principles of compassion, wisdom, and unity. They began by reaching out to the scattered survivors of Nova's race, using the Citadel's advanced communication systems to send a message of hope and renewal across the stars. Many were hesitant at first, scarred by the trauma of their past and wary of any promise of a brighter future. But Nova's words resonated with a deep, unshakable truth, a call to the very best of what they could be. She spoke of the mistakes of their ancestors, of the hubris and blindness that had led to their downfall. But she also spoke of the potential for growth and change, the opportunity to learn from the past and build something new and beautiful in its place. Slowly but surely, the survivors began to gather, drawn by the beacon of Nova's compassion and the promise of a new beginning. They came from all corners of the galaxy, a diverse tapestry of cultures and traditions united by a common dream. Under Nova and Elias's guidance, they set to work, using the advanced technology of the Citadel to heal the scars of the past and forge a new path forward. They created gardens and groves, living symbols of growth and renewal that filled the once desolate halls with vibrant color and life. They established schools and libraries, repositories of knowledge and wisdom that would serve as the foundation for a new era of enlightenment and understanding. And they built homes and communities, places of warmth and fellowship where the bonds of family and friendship could flourish. At the heart of it all was the Nexus Core, the artifact of immense power that had once threatened to consume Nova's people. But under Nova's gentle guidance, it became a symbol of something else entirely, a reminder of the incredible potential that lay within each and every one of them, waiting to be unlocked. Nova taught her people how to harness the core's energy, not for destruction or conquest, but for healing and creation. They used it to mend the wounds of the past, to restore what had been lost and to build something new and beautiful in its place. And as the celestial citadel began to shine once more, a beacon of hope and renewal in a galaxy too long shadowed by darkness, Nova and Elias knew that their work was only beginning. There were still challenges to face, still dangers lurking in the shadows. The memory of the Zetherian Order's brutal campaign was fresh in the minds of many, and there were whispers of other threats emerging from the depths of the unknown. But Nova and Elias faced these challenges with unwavering resolve, guided by the strength of their bond and the wisdom of their experiences. They forged alliances with other races and factions, building bridges of understanding and cooperation that would stand strong against any storm. And they continued to explore the mysteries of the Nexus Core, unlocking its secrets and using its power to push the boundaries of what was possible. Under their guidance, the Citadel became a center of learning and discovery, a place where the brightest minds of the galaxy could come together to share knowledge and push the frontiers of understanding ever forward. Years turned to decades, and decades to centuries. The legacy of Nova and Elias grew, passing from generation to generation like a precious flame. And though the two of them eventually passed into the realm of legend, their spirit lived on, a guiding light that continued to illuminate the path for all who followed. The celestial citadel stood tall, a monument to the enduring power of hope and the unbreakable bonds of love and fellowship. Its halls rang with the laughter of children and the wisdom of sages, a living testament to the dream that Nova and Elias had fought so hard to realize. And at its heart, the Nexus Core pulsed with a gentle, steady light, a reminder of the incredible potential that lay within each and every living being. It was a symbol of the great work that Nova and Elias had begun, and a promise of the brighter future that lay ahead. For though the darkness would always threaten, though there would always be challenges to face and obstacles to overcome, the legacy of Nova and Elias would endure. Their love, their compassion, and their unwavering commitment to the betterment of all life would stand as an eternal beacon, a guiding light for all who sought to build a better tomorrow. And so, as the stars continued to turn in their eternal dance, the story of Nova and Elias passed into legend, a testament to the incredible power of the spirit and the unbreakable bonds of love. Their names became synonymous with hope and renewal, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was always the potential for growth and change. Generations would come and go, empires would rise and fall, but the legacy of Nova and Elias would endure, a shining thread woven through the tapestry of the cosmos. And though the universe would continue to evolve and change, their spirit would remain, a constant reminder of the boundless potential that lay within the heart of every living being. For in the end, that was the true gift that Nova and Elias had given to the galaxy, not just the physical rebuilding of the celestial citadel, or the harnessing of the Nexus Core's power, but the unlocking of the infinite potential that lay within each and every individual. They had shown that through compassion, through understanding, and through the unbreakable bonds of love and fellowship, anything was possible. That no matter how dark the night, no matter how daunting the challenges ahead, there was always hope, always the chance for a new beginning. And so, as the story of Nova and Elias passed into the annals of history, it carried with it a message of eternal optimism, a reminder that the universe was a place of boundless opportunity and endless possibility. That no matter the obstacles, no matter the darkness, there was always the potential for growth, for change, and for renewal. It was a legacy that would endure for all time, a shining beacon of hope and inspiration for all who came after. And though Nova and Elias might have passed beyond the veil of mortal life, their spirit lived on, an eternal testament to the incredible power of love and the unbreakable resilience of the soul.